Hello YouTube, what's up? It's me, vinygee, and you're obviously, I don't know, maybe watching this video because you might need some help with arcade ideas, gaming, anything like that. So basically, I learnt from YouTube, everything I learnt from YouTube, and I'm always willing to help people, you know, with information and stuff like that. So you could have a look through one of my video playlists, which is entitled MAME and Arcade. I think it is. It's let's go down here somewhere. Yes, MAME and Arcade consoles, which is this one here. It's got a lot of information there on my journey, not on actually what to do, but I will point you guys in the right direction. So I started off arcade gaming basically when I was at tertiary education, and a guy by the name of Angelo introduced me to MAME, and I never knew what MAME was. I mean, we were still in the 90s here, you know, late 90s, nearly 2000 I think it was, and basically he gave me a DVD and it had the MAME emulator on there, and games and everything, and I looked at it and I just thought, wow, this is absolutely bloody awesome, you know. So I went on and got hooked and more into it, and I've got an arcade machine and a jukebox, and let's just get on with it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is choose a front end, and the two recommended front ends that I would be willing to recommend, I have no association with these authors or software designers or anything like that. I am just part of a big group that is just into arcade gaming. So when you choose a front end, you know, it all comes down to, what would you say, how good you are with a computer and organizing software and understanding some basic coding, specifically in ini files and config files, because you might have to alter them manually in some front ends. In other front ends, they have software that entangles itself with other software to give you an end result, but there's quite a bit of programming in it, such as, you know, highlighting boxes. It's basically, when you have a front end, the way to look at it is, if you know anything about relative databases, then you'll know what I'm understanding when you see a directory structure of your front end and MAME incorporated together and all that sort of stuff. So I started out with my first front end, I think was ArcOS, and this was a DOS based front end, and it was pretty good, it was pretty reliable, and you basically had a list, you know, in vertical orientation, and you just selected your game, bang, got straight into the game, and that was it. That's where I started from. But then, you know, all these front ends started coming out, and there was quite a few of them, but there was glitches, and it was sort of like with front ends, it was like the battle of the 80s when you had VHS and beta in video recorders. You know, you either like one or you like the other, but the end result was the same. And there's two front ends that I have found over time that were like that. You either like one because you have a better programming ability or whatever, or you like the other because it's basically just ticking boxes and everything's sort of done for you. Nonetheless, there are tons and tons and tons of videos on this on the internet, which is good in a sense, but it's bad in another, because you just simply don't know where to go. So I'm going to point you guys to where I have ended up on this journey to get my cabinet to the stage it is now. Now, the problem with that being is it's still not finished, it's still a work in progress, and I'll show you why. So let's get into, I'll start with Hyperspin, right? if you have a look on YouTube, you'll see the Hyperspin machines set up, and they look fantastic. There's bells and whistles and joysticks. It's all about, I don't know, the human brain just likes to see a lot of colour and a lot of shit going on the screen, and it looks really good. But you have to remember one thing, and one thing always. There is a computer driving this visual, this eye candy in front of you, and it requires processing power, especially when you're switching from, say, the front end to the system itself, and then the system graphics have got to kick in. It requires a not serious amount of processing power, but you just can't use a shitty old computer you had laying around to do this, because at the end of the day, if you're going to start a project like this, get yourself a half decent computer, and that way it will just save you a lot of pains and headaches, because you know the computer is working quite hard when it's running these front ends and all that sort of stuff. Not so much while it's doing one process, but the switching of processes. Now I found that Hyperspin, you know, like if you had a Celeron 2 processor or something like that, it would just look crap. The graphics wouldn't be smooth or anything like that. Now part of the reason people like these front ends is, for instance, on this Hyperspin page here, you would have a look, and this is what you get. You get these really shit-hot graphics, and basically okay, so they have an awesome video. Now their front end is as awesome as what this video is. That's an absolute delight to see Hyperspin work. But you really need to understand how to get this going. It is so optional. It is sometimes really overkill, and overkill on the sense of the part that like if you've got an arcade cabinet, unfortunately you're going to be wasting power, because if you want to show it off, you are going to have it in attract mode. Now the attract mode of let's say Hyperspin is really good. It's eye candy. It just looks sensational. But I have run Hyperspin, and my problem actually was the consumption of processing power to make all these graphics just interact, you know, like the games, the backdrop pictures and all that sort of stuff. It was a bit too much for my computer, and I thought, well, I'm going back to MameWah, which was MAME space WAH, was the front end that I was using, and I was really, how would you say, getting sick and tired of it, because it was a lot of manual programming. And just being honest, it really was. So then I found this front end here. Now, RetroFe has awesome, incredible capabilities. Absolutely terrific. It is, how would you say, more computer friendlier, but it is very intense as a front end in itself. Now in this picture here you see on the screen, part of the reason mine isn't working is because I have an older version and the computer's, you know, not that good, so I'm in the process of actually rebuilding a computer to get it all going properly, so my XML files tie in, and I will have for every game, the publisher, the developer, the genre of games, the ratings, the score, the year, everything will all tie in together, the back graphics and all that sort of stuff. There are a couple of, quite a few variations of what the front end looks like. You just change the set, and it's not that hard to do. There is tutorials on how to do it. However, if you got stuck, just give me a message on my channel and I will help you along. But some of the questions I get in regards to, okay, so I've got the front end, where do I get this, where do I get that, where do I get everything? Now, as per always, the ROMs, you would have to do a search online. There's plenty of places available for ROMs. You got to do the sorting, the sifting and all that sort of stuff yourself. That's all I can say on that. But what I did was, when I was initially playing around with Hyperspin a while back, I found a YouTube user by the name of Simply Austin. Now this guy is real heavy into gaming in regards to console emulation and stuff like that. He's like the shitlord, this guy, you know, he knows what he's talking about, and his recommendations are truly probably some of the best recommendations you will ever get. Now, he did a video, this guy, Simply Austin, on RetroFe. And to be honest, I'd never heard of RetroFe until I was watching this Simply Austin video on RetroFe. So I went to the RetroFe, well, there's a community you join, obviously, and I'll tell you which one that is. It's emumovies.com, right? You go there and there is downloads, MAME versions and all that sort of stuff. It is a great place to go for anything to do with questions, version downloads and all that sort of stuff. Now, how I downloaded it, I actually signed up and I donated a monthly subscription to Emu Movies to actually get access to RetroFe in a set up state. No games, but RetroFe completely set up. It was a 50+ gig download, so I recommend that if you wanted to get a fully set up version, first have a look at Simply Austin's video. It is an absolutely awesome video. Secondly, you would have to go to emumovies.com, and they also have support at Emu Movies for Hyperspin, I think. So whatever you decided to choose as your front end for your arcade gaming machine, I've given it all to you in this video. I hope you can make use of it. I highly recommend RetroFe, the download, as a simple solution, quick and simple solution to getting you off the ground with a decent front end. I also highly recommend you go through Simply Austin's video, and when you're on the RetroFe page, go to the documentation, read the documentation, and you will see its capabilities. It is simply awesome. Once again, thanks for watching the video. If you like what I'm doing, hit that like button, subscribe, push the bell, whatever. Thank you for watching once again, and I'll see you on the next one.